Okay, the sort of coding side of my intellect said, I have to shut this door because my stepfather's sleeping in the next room. He's in his 90s. He gets really antsy if you wake him up, and he needs his sleep. But anyhow, what I was going to say is I talked about RageBait, and I was thinking to myself, if YouTube was smart, what they would do in order to kind of help their viewership, how they would detect rage bait, which they can't do this with AI because AI doesn't reason. I mean, how is AI going to determine if there's rage bait? How would it determine that something's ludicrous? Because it would have to reason. It's only the people that reason, and they're not reasoning well, that are going to be able to determine what is rage bait. However, the AI can detect when people are raging, when there is a lot of rage comments to something that's rage bait, okay? And if they see a lot of rage and they see it on some channel where there's a lot of rage that's occurring, they might, either they or somebody else who's a bit smart. I could do this, but I'm not so inclined. I'm not out there trying to make money. I'm just trying to inform the ones who might come up with the solution, and that is to develop code that can detect rage bait on YouTube. How you do it is since the AI can't reason, you just go and you try to see if there's a lot of people raging on comments and something's growing really fast on some YouTuber. And if that's happening a lot, if people are not giving positive comments, if they're just giving lots of negative comments, then it's a source of rage. It's going to be controversial. And you don't want that content because it's not informative, it's not productive. And so you could develop an entire service. You could take the source from my site, Rock Me Amadeus, and actually bring down videos from YouTube, bring down the codes, and filter out all the rage bait, and then offer that as a service since my site doesn't show up advertisements from YouTube. You could do the same thing. And the thing is that this would force the rage baiters to turn off their advertising, or no, not turn off their advertising, but prevent embeds, because they're not going to make any money off the advertisements. That would be another thing is that you could take all the rage bait, stick it in a channel for those people that like rage bait, and then it wouldn't pay the people who are using the rage bait who are not smart enough to turn off their embeds, because they're not going to make any money off of embedded people that are using embeds to show up their videos. People are going to watch the content, but they're not going to benefit from their viewership because you can't put advertisements on embeds. You can put the ad banners, but those you cannot make money off of in America because those banner ads are only available in Europe and the rest of the world. And the reason why that is because I think YouTube has found that if you want a lot of illegal copying of music videos and stuff on their site, which is what draws a lot of people in, is the amount of illegal content that gets put up and then taken off, is that they offer an ad affiliate program to everybody outside of America. Now, if the RIA got wind of this, they might sue YouTube, which is probably the proper thing to do. Um, but I actually talked about that long ago that I was suspecting that, because I wanted to be an ad affiliate and found out that I could not do it. I could not use their ad program because it wasn't available to people in America. And so that's what I believe the reason why they do that is so that it drags in all the all these copyright infringers that are outside of America, who will just open up new accounts and keep throwing up illegal content. And that's why people go to YouTube, is because there's so much illegal content. And I draw off of that. That's where I get my music videos from, is all these people from the rest of the world that just keep throwing up content, and their countries are not copyright. Some of them are just don't comply with American copyright law, and so they don't care. And I don't think YouTube can do anything about the stuff they upload, unless I guess the RIA comes after them. But the thing is there's a whole psychology to the people that make money off of YouTube. And I'm sick of it, because I go to YouTube to find legitimate info, or to find stuff that can feed my brain some. And there's all this crap out there that's just trying to make money off of advertisements. If YouTube would just be smart enough to come up with their own Patreon system, they actually do. They have these little dollar sign things where you can give a dollar amount to somebody if you think that they're providing a good service. So they're kind of, in a way, trying to compete with Patreon. But their ad systems are what produce all of the annoying content. They're basically trying to get rid of all the gamers. I mean, not people who play video games, but the people that are gaming their system. Just the way that happens with Facebook when people put up those things that say, most people don't see this. Now, I think that that Facebook has been able to detect those things and take them down with their AI. I think that's one of the big benefits of AI is that it can recognize certain kinds of content and filter it out. But content that requires reasoning skills to detect are harder for AI. But as I said, all the AI has to do is do some research on the and YouTube doesn't have any interest in that, because they're selling advertisements. That's what's making them money, and whatever little dollars that people send to the YouTubers. That's the positive side. The negative side is that YouTube would probably get in the business of trying to put up a lot of useless content just to sell ads. And Facebook would not have any problem with that. I mean, their process of making money off of data and collecting data and stuff that went into the Brexit. I mean, you have to look up on Brexit and Cambridge Analytica, Brexit stuff, where people were getting targeted propaganda. They would get Russians to generate propaganda. It sounds silly, but if you think about it, Russians are got to be the best at being able to generate propaganda, because they're exposed to so much of it from their own country. So generating propaganda is like their forte. They know how to do it. And so you get some Russian agencies to generate propaganda and send it towards people that are moderates, left-leaning moderates, and you send them conservative, right-winger, FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt type things, that convince them that the left is wrong for some reason, that will cause them to go ultimately right. And their friends who are right will look at them and see that they're going right, going conservative. And by that, they'll develop the assumption that there is something seriously wrong with the liberals now, and that they have very good reason to poke fun at the liberals because they can't possibly be right about, Biden or whatever. And so they will be like, wow, Trump is like really good because all my left-leaning moderate friends are going completely right. So it's kind of a canary in the coal mine effect. And that's probably the reason why they're so convinced that Trump is such a good candidate, is because of that effect. And that came from using targeted ads. And how they do that is they detect where you're at or they look at the kind of content that you share with your friends. They can determine from that if you're a moderate or if you're a liberal or if you're a conservative. And they will use what they know about you to send you propaganda in hopes that it will have its effect for the people that are. And it sounds outlandish, but programmers and people who work with AI are completely aware of how to do these things. And that's where they're making their money, is by fooling people into it's mind control. And it's stupid. And the other reason why it can work really well is because we've gotten rid of our newspapers, that permit people in local communities to talk to each other, and that's creating division, because people are not aware of what people in their own community think about politicians or whatever. I'm taking the stance as a Christian to not vote at all, mainly to convince the others who are Christian to think a little harder about what's going on, and to understand that if you really have faith in God, then why are you falling for trying to control the world? I mean, there's this Christian belief that the world is fucked up, so why try to fix it? And so what you do is you spend time on the people in your area in helping them, rather than going out and trying to fix the world, which is not going to get fixed. And Jesus even never got involved in it. He was controversial. He was bringing through a controversial message, but he wasn't going to get involved in the politics, because the people that are involved in politics are sociopaths and psychopaths and stuff, because that's what they do. They find their way up into a hierarchy, and they control each other. That they're super good managers of other people, and due to the lack of, they have the ability to cut through any political system. Probably the reason why the guys exist in the first place is to break up political systems and hierarchies, which is also a result of people's lack of absolute perception. We were put here with a limited perception to show all the dynamics of sin. And sin is just basically doing bad stuff. It's my belief that the angels need a good example of what sin does, because if all the angels are convinced that sin could be something that is fun doing, they would, and then there are all the people who say, oh, that's mythology. But think about it from the perspective that maybe this is all a simulation. And why would it be a simulation in the first place? But we're all on trial. It isn't that we're on trial, sin's on trial. And the angels, which would be a metaphysical being or whatever, would be looking at the simulation and showing the behavior of what happens whenever you challenge. And so it's showing the dynamics. We're given limited perception so that we have the capacity to make choices and to have free will and things like that. And if you limit people's capacity to do what they want to do, it's not going to exploit all the dynamics of what sin is. That was the whole purpose, I think, of that, we're not really here to show other people what's correct behavior. We're here to, it is to an extent, but we're not here to control people, not to judge and control people. We're here to represent the proper way of whatever that is and do it in a non-controversial way, and a way that's not going to be controlling and, and what are the Christians doing? They're trying to control the world. Why did the Christians come together with the conservatives and the fiscal conservatives and all that? Is because they had underrepresentation. They figured if they all came together, people that had kind of like-minded stuff, that they would all, they would have better representation in the government. But why would you want that if you're a Christian? Christians are supposed to be anti-government in a way, not anti-government, but anti-hierarchies. And so why do you want to vote? What's the purpose of that? Is it to give yourself freedom, or is it to control others? And so now the millennials are not going to watch this video, because what we found out about millennials is that they don't have a tendency to go very far into videos. They might have some friends that will do the research and say, okay, this is a good person to listen to. But what I saw of a video on YouTube was that, or actually I think it was a newspaper report, was that millennials were exhibiting a behavior that's kind of not the same as their parents and their grandparents, which was and it's because we have a lack of we have a lack of accurate reporting and research and all that stuff. They're depending upon their social group to determine what content is worth looking at. Anyhow,